I went down to Atlanta wanting to do a story about the thinness of the black middle class. One of the things that's neat about the South before this crisis is it's a place where black folks had managed to start to own homes more than elsewhere in the country. There are old black communities that have been there for generations, and they have between the public programs that have helped and individual will. They've scraped together and managed to build neighborhoods and communities where you have longtime homeowners. And so we wanted to go look in a place where there was something to lose. Absent home equity, black wealth is 1% of white wealth in America. Home equity is a deep, 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 I mean, there's already a huge wealth gap, but to the degree that the black community has been able to cobble together capital has been through home equity, and it has gone out the window for a whole lot of people. And the vast majority of loans made were refinance loans, loans that went to people who had owned their property for some time and got flipped through a series of increasingly larger and larger loans that they couldn't afford and that had no benefit whatsoever to them. And they got them into those by going in, preying on people who didn't know any better, telling them this is going to be a good deal for you. Just sign here, and it's all going to work out. George Mitchel is typical of folks in his neighborhood, and I should say his neighborhood. You drive through it, and it looks like a disaster zone, with the number of boarded up houses or houses that are up on either are bank owned and sitting there. Number of people who have lost their homes, all old families. George Mitchell, 76 years old when he got his first, when he got the last loan. Every penny of the loan went either to pay off the previous loan or to IndyMac's closing costs. Here's a guy who was a mail carrier for 35 years, is retired on Social Security, his pension from that, and is supposed to be making $5,000 a month. That's not a red flag. Here's a guy in a zip code that is well known to be one of the worst hit in the country. And his house is supposed to be worth $125,000. So there's an example of here's a loan that did him absolutely no good. On its face, he had no reason to get. Its only purpose was to create a larger debt volume and a bigger loan that the bank could then sell into the securities market. The depth of the predation is stunning, and stands in direct contrast to the national rhetoric around borrower responsibility. The responsibility is very clearly on the lenders here. So there's 250,000 people in foreclosure right now. That's 50% greater than there was this time last year. There are more than 2 million people more than 60 days delinquent on their loans. More than 2 million. Those people are headed into foreclosure. Like George, there are people who were in foreclosure the day they signed the loan. And it's just a matter of time before they arrive on the auction block. And so you have neighborhoods that were communities, and we've seen throughout history this repeating itself in black neighborhoods where they were communities, and that community is a living organism that is more than just a collection of houses and more than just a collection of people. And after it gets gutted, that has an echo effect on people's lives. Sooner or later, we're going to have to come up with a large-scale plan, in my humble opinion, similar to the one we create the first housing boom in mid-century, to get working-class folks and middle-class folks into loans that make sense.